Hey everybody, how's it going? It's the start of a new week, so that must mean it's time for another episode of Mondays Suck. This is, of course, our series where we talk about, well, stuff that sucks. Today we're talking about Ghostbusters. Now, hang on, whoa, I know, Ghostbusters doesn't suck, but to be specific, we're talking about the Ghostbusters movie from 2016. Now, does it suck? It kind of depends on who you ask. Okay, this film has taken a lot of flack from specifically the Ghostbusters fandom and more broadly just sort of movie-going fandom in general. So it's not one of the worst movies ever made, I don't think, but it's certainly, as I said, it's got its share of critics and it just kind of missed the mark and it lost a ton of money. So what this movie is basically a reboot of the original Ghostbusters movie. Well, okay, a loose reboot featuring 4 female leads instead of 4 male leads. Now, that was a very controversial thing about this movie. A lot of people were extremely pissed that they recast all the lead characters with women. Personally, I don't have a problem with that. I don't mind it when movie producers try new things. I don't think that casting all women was a terrible idea in and of itself, but the way they handled it within this franchise and the way the story played out and the way that everything came together, it just didn't work. I kind of see where they were going with it. Okay, let's reboot the Ghostbusters movie and see where it goes. The problem is that in doing that, they basically eliminated their ability to use any of the existing characters. So most of the actors, rather, from the original Ghostbusters movie are in this new movie, but of course they're all playing different roles because the new movie is a remake, so they can't be their existing characters because in this continuity, the events of the original movie never happened. Now, a big problem with why this movie gets as much flack as it does, besides the to be forever debated gender switch casting, is that, okay, this came out almost 30 years after the last Ghostbusters movie. And the Ghostbusters fandom, of which of course I'm a big part, I love it, is a very, very passionate group. So we've been waiting a long time for another movie when this thing finally came out. So the expectations were way up there, and unfortunately this movie didn't hit them. Now, I saw it on opening night in the theater. I have no regrets about that. I thought that it was passable as far as movies go. It had some funny moments, it had some mildly entertaining moments. It really wasn't that terrible. The problem is that it did not live up to the legacy of Ghostbusters. When I was watching it, I kind of felt like I was watching just a generic kids comedy movie kind of thing, not a Ghostbusters movie. There were things that made Ghostbusters special that this movie just wasn't able to capture. You could have done it with 4 female leads, but this movie, they weren't able to figure it out for whatever reason. And credit to the ladies involved because I think they did a really good job with what they had. Unfortunately, the problems with the script and the story just limited the whole thing and sunk it. So, again, disappointing. Not one of the worst movies ever made. Takes a lot of unfair flack, I think, because of the whole gender switch thing and not properly honoring the Ghostbusters. It was going to be really tough no matter what the third Ghostbusters movie was to come up with something that was going to properly honor the franchise and properly satisfy fans who've been waiting almost 3 decades now for another Ghostbusters movie. On the plus side, there is another one coming out, Afterlife, and that does look like it might get the job done. But again, expectations are really high, so I'm not going to pass judgment on that until I see it. But I do think that this movie tends to get a little more flack than it deserves. Was it a great Ghostbusters movie? No. Was it a great movie? Not really. Was it one of the crappiest movies ever made? I don't think so. It's certainly not far from the bottom, but there are far worse movies out there. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this to any Ghostbusters fans unless you go into it realizing that, hey, this is more of a loose action movie with some girls that kind of has the Ghostbusters name on it than an actual Ghostbusters movie. But there could be far worse ways to spend a couple of hours. So I think this movie was just kind of a misfire. It could have been really good. It just, like I said, didn't hit the mark for a variety of reasons, so that's why it ends up in our pile of suck for today. But it wasn't that terrible either. And that's part of what this series is about, is that we don't talk about things that are overall renowned for just completely, absolutely sucking. Well, okay, we don't only talk about that. We talk about stuff like this that has a pretty negative reputation, but at the same time may not be the absolute worst of the worst. But that's the fun of this series. We can make it whatever we want. So, unfortunately for Ghostbusters, it sucks.